The fact that, the government overturned the ban or effective ban on onshore wind in England within the first 72 hours, after the election is just fantastic. So this week on the Greencast, we've got Meg O'Neill from the Climate Coalition. So Meg, thank you so much for joining us. And do you want to just sort of introduce yourself and say what the Climate Coalition is and what it's about?
Hi everyone who is watching / listening. It is really, really nice to be here and to be connected with Sarah and all the amazing work that you're doing at Ripple as well and amongst your community. So a wee bit of background, I'm Meg, I'm the head of movement building with the Climate Coalition. And if you've not heard of us before, the Climate Coalition is the UK's largest coalition of organisations that are dedicated to tackle climate change and restore nature. We are a coalition of over 130 organisations throughout the UK. That ranges from everyone from the RSPB to Oxfam to the Women's Institute and lots in between. We also have sister organisations in Wales, which is Climate Cymru, and in Scotland, which is Stop Climate Chaos Scotland. And together we believe that we are at our strongest when we are more than the sum of our parts. So we work to mobilise collectively our collective supporters and the millions of ordinary people around the country who also want to tackle climate change and restore nature and stand united with people, climate and nature.
That's fantastic, and yeah, I think your point about people being stronger when they can be more than the sum of their parts is so important, and I think there is such a huge value in people coming together, whether that's individual people or organisations. It's amazing. So, what are your kind of thoughts on the new government that we've got, and how that might affect meeting the Climate Coalition's aims?
Yeah, it's really like a huge moment in our political lives and history, isn't it? For me in particular, I don't remember there being such an important election in my adult years. So I find it a really exciting opportunity as well at the moment. We've had a really historical turnover of MPs. We're seeing more diversity coming out on the range of different political parties that are sitting in government now, and we've had a changeover of our government. We've seen hundreds literally of new MPs coming into Parliament, and it's really exciting because we're in the first 100 days when this is the opportunity for the government and for us as the communities to really set that tone and agenda of what we want our government to be and do in the coming 5 years and what legacy we want them to leave behind. And this is a chance for MPs, particularly those new MPs, to be able to start to think about, what is their legacy that they want to leave behind. A lot of them want to make their mark in Parliament. A lot of them are, really working to build that trust with constituents and build those relationships. And there's a lot of media focus and scrutiny at the moment as well, which is a really great opportunity for amazing community groups like there are in Ripple to, strike while the proverbial iron is hot, isn't there?
Yeah, no, exactly. I think it's hard to, it takes a bit of a while to kind of realise just how the kind of parameters of what's possible have changed so much. And even in terms of, talking to people in government, that it's, things that wouldn't have been possible before are now suddenly actually in this or under this new government, actually, the kind of horizons have opened so significantly. And I think the fact that there are so many brand new MPs, they have to, there's so much for them to learn about kind of how things are done, but also if they're learning how things are done with a different, sort of far less constrained mindset, following on from the really amazing ambitions that the government kind of set out before the election, it does completely change the game in terms of what you can actually do in 5 years. And certainly the new government has got just incredible plans for what it wants to achieve over the next 5 years. It's really, really it's just fantastic to see a government wanting to do so much in so quickly.
Absolutely. And, ambition is only that word without action. And so this is where it's a really exciting opportunity for us as well to show that, we want that ambition to be action as well. It's not something that was just pie in the sky thinking that nobody really wants in real life. In reality, we've got hundreds of thousands of people across the UK that in variety of different ways really want to see them turning that ambitious manifesto into something that's tangible, and it's going to be good for us and good for climate and good for nature.
Yeah, totally. And I think, from our perspective, obviously we deal with a lot of wind farms. The fact that, the government overturned the ban or effective ban on onshore wind in England within the first 72 hours, after the election is just fantastic. But again, we really now need to see, you kind of, they've kind of opened the door, and now is the time that, you really need to enable, new wind farms to come forward and take advantage of the easier or sort of, easier planning restrictions, I think. But yeah, I mean, in terms of, what they've kind of done, even in the first, few weeks of the government is really quite impressive, whether or not that's kind of increasing the budgets for the subsidy auctions that they held, obviously overturning the ban on onshore wind. It's really great. And they seem to be, even in a debate in Parliament last week, you had Ed Miliband, the Secretary of State for Energy, saying that he wants the people of Britain to be able to own and benefit from the UK's natural resources. And then you had Michael Shanks, who's the a junior energy minister. He said really clearly he wants communities to be at the heart of the UK's energy transition, and just having those kind of really clear statements that this isn't just setting out in the manifesto. They are now in government, and when they are debating the GB Energy bill, they are really, really clear in terms of what their intentions are, and the fact that they want communities to be at the heart of this is so brilliant. I think we're going to see a big obviously a big expansion of community energy, but also a kind of just galvanizing of kind of that spirit of action amongst people, because it's oh hey, actually we can do this. And so let's do it. I think if people feel oh they can't do it, so there's kind of I think they get a bit less kind of G'd up to do it, but it's actually come on, we can do this now, and things have changed, and I think that can just be such a game changer in terms of how many people are actually I will get on board with that and take action. And whether it is I think again with MPs being brand new to the job, I think they if constituents are raising concerns with their MPs saying this is what we need your help to enable us to achieve, it just shows those MPs what their constituents feel is important. And I think the more that you can just get that kind of constituent kind of activism and engagement, the more that MPs can just see what's important to the people that they represent.
Absolutely. And I think it is really important what you're saying about feeling that community energy at a hopeful time. I think hope is one of the most powerful things that we can have in our toolbox, and to be able to present that hope to someone who can actually make the decisions on whether or not GB Energy, for example, gets passed in Parliament, that's a really exciting thing. That's a really great superpower to have as hope.
It is, absolutely. And it's kind of and I think we obviously we opened the share offer for our first wind farm in 2020. It was mid-lockdown. It was a really tough time for people, but we got the project funded and done. Then we did our second project, and I think you can see that people can kind of see this momentum and they want to be part of it. And I think once you see that things can change and that you can actually be part of that change, and that being part of the change feels incredible, and it is that kind of superpower that actually things can change as a result of your actions. It's a really incredible place for people to be in, I think. What do you kind of see as the similarities? Obviously we are, we're a sort of membership membership, we've got nearly 20,000 members across our various different cohorts. What do you kind of see as some of the similarities between kind of Ripple and the Climate Coalition?
Yeah, I think there's lots of similarities with us. I think our shared values is one of the really important things, like harnessing that hope and also the power of the community and recognizing that how powerful, like we spoke about before we actually come on this, how powerful communities, both physically and communities distributed across a country or a constituency, how actually amazing that can be. And we do have asks as well, and key things that we're calling for that really relates to what Ripple is calling for. One of them, for example, is we're calling on the government to have a fully funded plan that is going to make sure that people can have warm homes, but also that it remains affordable, which we've seen that for millions of people around the UK that's not been the case for the last couple of years. And what you're doing at Ripple is really exciting because it's an opportunity to have that feel of that power of you have ownership and control over where you get your energy from, and also the bills in which you pay to get your energy.
And we've actually just launched a kind of campaign because obviously the government wants to get all of this community energy, put communities at the heart of the energy transition, and we're sort of saying, okay, that's absolutely fantastic, we're so on board with that, but if you want that to happen at scale, there's a few things you need to do to kind of enable it to happen. And so we want people to not have to pay levies on their own power, to not be taxed on any savings, but also for GB Energy to make available like low cost loans or grants, so that people that can't necessarily afford £2,000 to buy a bit of a wind farm to supply them with low cost power for 20-30 years, that they can get a grant or a loan from GB Energy to make that possible. So I think it's really important that this whole transition is like a just transition, and that it's not exclusive, that it's available to everyone and that everyone can benefit. As Ed Miliband said in Parliament last week, everyone should be able to benefit from the UK's amazing natural resources. So yeah, we want to enable, to really kind of broaden out ownership so that everyone can own a bit of a wind farm and get low cost green power for the long term. So yeah, I think there are really, really good parallels between what you're kind of seeking and what we're looking for, because I think you have to have, there's no point in kind of 5-10% of the population getting their emissions down to zero if they're 90% of other people it's beyond their means to be able to do it. You have to get it so that carbon reductions and climate action is accessible to everyone, and obviously lots of people will need financial help to make that viable, because there can be an upfront cost to doing a lot of this as well.
Absolutely, and that's why having that, like the fully funded plan is so important, and being able to look ahead to what that means and how you make it, climate action for an individual, both possible and accessible as well. Because like you say, not everybody has £2,000 in their pocket that they can fork out. And the exciting thing is as well is, it's not about what we lose by transitioning away from, fossil fuels and moving to, newer and more exciting approaches to how we own and use energy. It only creates opportunities for us if we do it right. It creates decent skilled jobs in the areas that we need them most. It helps keep homes warm. It helps keep people happier, healthier, and it also has an impact on like nature and green spaces that we have around us, which we all know has a massive impact on our well-being as well. So it's a full holistic effect that it has by actually what is quite realistic and achievable steps that a government could take to move away from fossil fuels.
What do you say in terms of when people want to act and do something to make change happen? What is it that the Climate Coalition kind of does to help people kind of know what's the right thing to do and what's the kind of less effective use of your time kind of thing?
In terms of how we can support communities, we have a whole variety of different things, but mainly we work with and through our members to mobilise the millions and millions and millions of people that our collective membership is connected to. And we do that in lots of different ways. We have Great Big Green Week, which happens once a year. You might have heard of it, but it's an opportunity for communities hundreds of thousands of people up and down the country to come together and organise a whole variety of climate events that helps celebrate all the action that's happening across the UK, and lots of our members take part in that. And we also give the opportunity to kind of really build up skills and abilities to be able to do things like reach your MP and have those important conversations, because I think we've talked about, you know, that sense of feeling like there's an action. You know, often there's a feeling of, you know, well, why me? And, you know, how can I get involved? And actually understanding how powerful you are and how much your MMP can be influenced by what you have to say is, again, like what we were saying about how important hope is as a tool. Also, having that ability and that knowledge is such a powerful tool to have as well, to be able to present what your vision is for the future to your MP in a way that's going to compel them to act.
And I think on that, I think it was a year ago, we asked our members to contact their MP about a particular issue, and obviously our members are spread across the whole country, so there were lots of MPs getting letters from our members, and obviously not all MPs act, but you can't tell. You know, we got some MPs. One Sunday afternoon, I was on the phone to an MP who wanted to learn more about the issue, and then he kind of contacted the minister about it. And, you know, if his constituent hadn't contacted him, there's no way he would have, you know, called me up to find out what issue we were trying to make progress on. So it is, you know, I think people can sort of underestimate or just think, okay, I was writing to my MP, they're not going to do anything. Actually, they really do. They don't all do it, but lots of them do, and it's very it's really heartening to see that actually, and particularly I think, you know, given that so many MPs are kind of brand new, it's really heartening that actually when people can see, oh, I've written to my MP and then they've written an email to a minister, or they've done this or they've done that on their behalf. It's a really incredible feeling, I think.
Yeah, it's such a great journey to go on as well, you know, and, you know, to be able, like I say, it's not going to happen every single time, but the more you do it and the more that many people do it in your constituency, the more likely they are to act. So it's about, you know, finding, like what we were saying about, like that physical community or connecting with a community that's constituency and beyond, you know, because MPs essentially, they do work for you. And their job is to represent you in Parliament. And so if they're hearing over and over again this need for action and for leadership, they're more likely, because they're feeling that sort of weight and pressure for that mandate, to then go and speak on your behalf in Parliament and kind of support your issue.
How can people then get involved directly with the Climate Coalition?
Yeah, so one of our next things that are coming up, which is a really really speaks to what we're talking about, is that hope, that first 100 days. MPs really wanting to build those relationships with their constituents and really hear from them, is the Climate Coalition and various members are kind of mobilising people around the country to take part in a campaign moment on the 12th of October. This is an opportunity for people to tell their stories, but also like organise a meeting with their MP, whether it's as an individual, as a community, to be able to meet with them and tell them why their climate and nature issue is so important. So it's not necessarily about us giving, you know, here's key asks that we want you to take, but rather like yourselves at Ripple, for example, being able to use this moment, this campaign moment, to find that common ground with your local MP and to tell them why cooperative, community-owned energy is so important. So the campaign moment is called Common Grounds. And it very much speaks to the moment that we're at right now, which is communities and MPs having an opportunity to come together and find their common grounds, find what they jointly care about, and really drive those projects that are going to be good for us and good for people and good for the climate. So to get involved with this day of action, there's lots of ways that you can get involved. We have a pledge page, for example, on our website, peopleclimatenature.org. You can go on and pledge that you're going to meet your MP on the 12th of October, and you can see all the hundreds and hundreds of people around the UK that are going to do the same. But also when we speak about storytelling and those sort of practicalities and the tools that you have in your toolbox that you can use, we're providing some training to help you build up your skills and your ability to be able to do exactly what we've just talked about, meet your MP. So we have 2 sets of training sessions that you can get involved in. One of them is that actually, how do you meet your MP? You know, How do you write a letter to them? How do you book in an MP a meeting? And how do you find the common ground with your MP, you know, and treat them as, you know, that 360 person and have an ask for them? And the other one, which is really important that you touched on, Sarah, is the importance of stories, and being able to tell your own story. So we're providing training on how you can authentically craft your own personal story of why you've been called to lead. In this case, you know, being really passionate about cooperative community-owned energy, and being able to present that back to your MP in a way that gets them really excited and moved as well.
So yeah, so we'll share all the links. It's been so good to be able to chat to you about all the exciting things that the Climate Coalition is doing, and yeah, best of luck for your day of action, because it's exactly what's needed. I think there are so many, as you said, millions of people who want to be able to act and see and kind of achieve and secure change, that yeah, the more that we can kind of mobilize people, but also, you know, give them the skills and the confidence to be able to yeah, just kind of stick their hands up and say, actually, this is what I want. Yeah, it's just absolutely fantastic. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And we're so excited for members of Ripple to have the, you know, get that sort of momentum and to go and meet your MP and talk about what you care about, and, you know, why you want to see projects like community energy that's going to, you know, be good for people, climate and nature. And if you join in the capacity building training, pledge to meet your MP, I hope that you find it a meaningful and hopeful moment of celebration with your MP.
That's fantastic. I'm sure you'll have loads and loads of Ripple members joining, signing up to your training.
Very
because
exciting.
They are super engaged. So yeah, thank you so much. It's been really great to talk.
Great to talk to you as well, Sarah.
Cool, thank you.